Hello, welcome to the Mighty Meeple. I'm your host, Eric Schwartz. In today's video, I am super excited to be bringing to you this game right here, Zombicide Green Horde by CMON Games. This is my first miniatures game that is in my collection, so I am super stoked to be getting it to my table. This here, though, what you see here is the retail version. I did get in on the Kickstarter, so I have some extra rewards and some extra add-ons. But they sent it in two waves. So this was wave one, and this is basically the retail version. So even if you weren't a part of the Kickstarter, if you just buy this at your local store or on Amazon or something like that, this is what you'll get. So everything you see in this video is the retail version. But we are going to do a nice detailed look. We're going to take our time, look at all the nitty-gritties of the components and the miniatures, try to get a close-up look. If you just want something quick, click this gray bar up here. It'll take you to my quick unboxing video. But otherwise, with this video, let's just head to the table and dive into this thing. Okay, we're all set up here. As you can see, still got the plastic on. So first things first, let's just go ahead and take that off here. All right. Look at that artwork, man. That is absolutely stunning. See, you got all the survivors represented here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got some of the orcs. You got the goblin runner. You got the abomination. Awesome looking artwork here. You see here on the side, we have easily more artwork on the side, as well as the title, so you can easily see on the when it's on the shelf which game you're grabbing. So I always appreciate that. Sometimes, you know, not all games do that, so it's always appreciated when they do that. Let you know. Take a look here on the back. Ages 14 and up. So they say it's not a children's toy. So we got 1 to 6 players. Although I believe I've seen that there's ways to accommodate more than 6 players. 14 and up as far as the age, and they're saying about an hour for game time. And there's multiple quests, so some may take more or less. Brief overlook at the contents and just a summary of the game. And here you see just kind of a layout of the board and the components and just some of the stuff that we're going to be taking a look at ourselves. So here's I was saying before, the name, it is designed by Raphaël Guiton, Jean-Baptiste Lullien, and Nicolas Raoult. I probably butchered those names, and any designers are watching, I truly apologize, but that's the best I could do. So here we go. Let's open this up. Oh yeah. Oh, I love that new game smell. All right, so nothing on the inside of the box. So right off the top, let's show you a little bit more here. We got around the edge. We got all the survivors, and we also have the necromancer, abomination, some more of the survivors here, and then we have all the regulars: the fatty, the walker, and the runner. So those are all the different characters, the playable characters, as well as the non-playable characters, the baddies that you're trying to kill. Right off the top, we have the rules and quest book. So this is a nice thick. Let's go ahead and, so we have 59 pages in this rules and quest book. And from the very beginning, we have nice laid out chapters, overlook of all the components, how many of each piece is supposed to be in the game, all the different tokens, all the different cards that they have, and then starting right off in the rules. So they kind of give a brief summary of the game and what it is, the storyline behind it. Going into the setup, the basics, some of the rules, just reading an equipment card and weapon cards and all that stuff, armor, how to use your game board. So we have a lot of that stuff in here. And then let's see, we're going to keep on going. Zombie phases and movement and all that stuff. Oh, here's what I mentioned here, playing with 7+ survivors. So there is a way to play with more than 6 people, and they have accommodations for that. Oh, and so I'm gonna cover this up here a little bit right here. But we have we're starting off on the quests here. So we have a quest 0, and this is a tutorial. Kind of gives you an idea how to play the game. And so I'll show you this one. I'm not going to show you the others. Just want to keep a little bit of surprise. I may do some playthroughs later on this channel. But I'll let you take a look here at the quest 0, so the Evil Shrine. And looking for fresh water, we stumbled across a desiccated, I'm having a hard time reading this upside down with that font. But basically it's a shrine, and you're trying to demolish that shrine. So they give you the setup, so the special tokens that you're going to be using to set up the board, where you start at right here. That's the starting place for all the players. You got all your different doors that are placed on the tiles. So that's kind of how these quests are oriented. You know, they shows you how to set up the board and everything. And then we got, looks like, 6 quests. We have 7, 8, 9, 10 quests, and then it tells you some special skills and stuff. And then in the back, you know, not such a big rule book like this. Index is especially appreciated. So that way you can, if you want to look at something in particular, you can just go right to the back and say, okay, which page am I going to? So looks like a very nice rule book. Oh, and look here, we got on the back summary. So we can just have this sitting on the table with the back, and we just look at this rather than digging through the rule book unless we want to find something specific. So this here is just a summary sheet of how the round goes. So that's also very nice to have. So let's go ahead and set that aside. We have here, all right. So we have a little sticker here. So this is going to the side of the box so that we can see how to repack this this minis box. So we're going to go ahead and pick this up. This is the minis box. I'm not going to show it to you just yet, but we're going to go here into the components. What do we have here? What do we have here? So it looks like this is the insert that they have for it. Just very, very minimalistic, but for a game like this, you know, this is going to take up most of the space, and then that'll hold all the tiles. So let's set that aside and take a look at these cardboard components here. So what do we got here? What do we got here? All right, so right off the bat, we have tokens. So we have barriers, and we have, look like these are noise tokens. So if you played Zombicide before, you know that you make noise and that attracts the zombies. We have, these are doors, different doors, spawn points. This is, looks like Dragon Bile. And oh, if you look on the other side, so we've ignited the Dragon Bile, and that's the, you know, the Dragon Bile on fire. And then the broken door. So on the other side, you know, you got the closed door, and once you've opened it up, you can show that it's broken and open. So in some of these spawn tokens also have green and blue on the other side for special missions. Exit point, and I'm not sure what that flag is for, but we'll find out later on. All right, so we got some more barriers, some more spawn tokens. We have this little X here. Damaged token here. I may talk to CMON, see what they can do about that. More Dragon Bile, some special tokens here that we not sure what we got here. But oh, it looks like in these doors we have some green and a red door. Looks like these are the Necromancer spawn tokens. On the other side of these barriers we have hedges. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe portals? We'll find out what those are. Interesting. All right, and looks like now we're getting into the actual game boards. So as you can see here, these are like one of these city tiles that you'll place out to make up the game board. So some of these dark green areas you'll see here, this is represents water, and this is dry land, although you still got some puddles and stuff like that. And this here is a shore connecting the water to the dry land, and inside of a building right here. So you might you know, put some doors in here at some point to get into the buildings. And these are double-sided. So it looks like you got a little cabbage patch field here, some hedges, which I believe, if I remember correctly, this is something new added to Green Horde. So this is different. That is one of the new features, different from Black Plague. But some more buildings here, and the tile indicator is the identifier, you know, right here, 12V, 12R. We got some more great artwork. I like how each of these little sections are clearly designated, clearly marked out on here with the artwork. You know, it doesn't blend in too much, but you can clearly tell which zone is which. Great artwork. I'm going to really be able to tell a great story with these as we play the quests and stuff like that. Looks like the storage room with some grain, rotten fields over here. Looks like some maps and stuff. Somebody's bed with their weapons. Looks like maybe they didn't get out of there in time because they left their weapons behind. There's the city well. Marshes. That's a city in ruins, man. Look at that. I like that. Even still, though, even with all this artwork, you can still see the different zones. It's beautiful. With this one here, though, if you notice here, there is no differentiation of the zones. So this is actually one giant zone here, same as this one here, because you don't see that line. These lines are very clear, so you can tell when you have a giant zone like this or just a single small square. So I love how they did this. Actually, here I'm looking at this other tile here. Same thing here with this one. This is one giant zone right here. So this is not two zones, this is just one, even though these here, this is two separate zones. So the artwork is very good, very clear, lets you know as far as movement, how you're actually going to move around the board and everything. So more buildings and such. Looks like we've had a battle out here, some blood and everything. More field areas. Maybe a tool shed or something like that. Treasure room. Look at that. Gold all scattered on the floor. Ruins. Absolutely wonderful artwork. Though I kind of like how it makes gives you kind of a scenario with the, with the artwork, just a scene of what the city is. But still, it's subtle enough, the colors are muted enough that it's not going to really distract you from your pieces and everything, but just kind of lets you, provides a map for you to play. If you notice here, you got, again, water and dry land, but this here is a little darker as far as the differentiation, the transfer between the dry land and the water. So if you notice here, kind of it's gradual right there. Right here, it's a sharp, dark black line right there. So this is a ledge as opposed to a shore, and that'll actually affect your movement and how you get out of the water right there. So another tile. So it looks like out in the fields, the wilderness outside of the city. There's another city scene. Another city, looks like maybe just on the outskirts of the city. You got a little tower here, some fields and hedges, and here's the last tile. So a little, looks like a mill. All right, so those are all the tiles. All the cardboard components that come in the game. Now, this is the part that a lot of people are excited for. I'm excited to see these two. You ready? First of all, look at this beautiful artwork again, showing all the survivors. Let's open it up. Oh. Look at that. Look at that. All right. So we have here the survivor cards, and I'm going to hold off on that until I set up the camera. We're going to do a closer look here at some of these. We have the Zombicide cards, so some of these are equipment. These are the spawn cards, lots of stuff like that. So we're going to set that aside as well. We have the player boards. So we got 6 player boards there, each with their danger level, their experience basically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Set that aside. We have, these are the bases for differentiating which survivors which as far as the player boards. So those snap on like that when you're playing. Choose your color that you like. So you got 6 colors. You got red, green, orange, yellow, purple, blue, and red. I think I already said red, but set those aside. And these are all the trackers. Let's get that close up for you. Alright, so these are the little, looks like these are made out of plastic. And you use these to kind of track the health and experience. So use that to track the health. And then over here we're going to have the special abilities based upon your character and the danger level, and you can track which special abilities that you have there. So we'll take a closer look at that without the plastic here in a little bit. All right, and then we have kind of just your standard dice, nothing fancy here. We got, I'm just showing you 3 here, but we got I got 6 in total. So the 6 pip, some very well made, good weight to them, rolls quite well. Look at that. Wish I was playing. I got a great roll there. All right, so let me set up the camera and we'll get a closer up look here at all of these, what we have in this box of miniatures. Okay, so we got the hero cards here. This is pretty much the character cards that you'll be playing. There are 6 heroes in the base game. Now there are expansions, hero sets that you can buy. Even if you weren't in Kickstarter, there will be stuff that will be available in retail. Start off with, we got a seam, and all these cards are going to be laid out pretty much the same. They're going to have the character name here, of course, some artwork for the character. Over here is going to show the body spot, and each character is going to have something special they can put there instead of armor. And then down here, you're going to see the different abilities that they can start with and or gain throughout the course of the game based upon the experience level that they're at. So Asim here, in his body slot, he can hold a curved dagger instead of wearing armor. And that'll get him some bonuses during rolling and stuff. But down here at the bottom, his special action that he starts with at the beginning of each quest that you do is Taunt. And then as he progresses up to reach his experience, the yellow level, which I believe is like 6 or 7 experience points, he gets an extra action. And then when he gets up to the orange level, he can choose between +1 free melee action or 1 free move action. And then over here, when he gets up to the red level, he can have a choice of 3. He can do +1 dice roll for any melee attack. He can do a bloodlust for melee, or he can do Reaper combat. And so when he reaches that red level, he would choose that special ability that he's going to have and keep. So that's Asim. And then on the back of the card, you see a little more extensive artwork for him. Pretty cool looking dude, if you ask me. All right, next up we have Rolf. So here's Rolf. Looks like something straight out of Conan the Barbarian, you know, but he's got a big old great sword and dagger here. But in his body slot, he can hold a great axe instead of armor because, well, hell, it looks like he can handle it. But then his actions, his free action that he starts with at the beginning of the quest is Bloodlust Melee. And then as he progresses up to the yellow, he can get a +1 action, just like any of your other base characters. And then a +1 free melee action or jump for his orange ability. And then over here he can have for his red abilities, he can choose between a +1 free combat action, battle rage, or shove. So that is Rolf, and there is his artwork there on the back. Like I said, pretty tough looking dude. He looks like he definitely could handle a great axe on his own. Next up we have Megan, and looks like this one, Megan's going to be the spellcaster of the group, because in her body slot, instead of armor, she can hold speed enchantment instead. And then over here, her free action at the beginning is double casting. Then moving up into the yellow experience, she can gain a +1 action. And then orange experience, she can choose between a +1 free melee action or a spellbook. And then over here for her red abilities, she can choose between a +1 free combat action, +1 dice roll for any magic attack, or a +1 to dice roll for a melee attack. There's Megan there with her artwork on the back. Pretty cool, tough looking gal. All right, here we got the dwarf of the group, because you can't have fantasy without dwarves. This is Baron, and in his slot for body armor, he could instead wear a dwarven axe. And his free action is shove. His yellow action is he gets a +1 action. For his orange experience ability, he can get a +1 dice for a melee action or a +1 free melee action. Over here, he can do, for his red experience, he can choose between a +1 damage for any melee attack. That could be pretty helpful when fighting like an abomination or something like that. Over here you could do a +1 free combat action or a bloodlust for a melee attack. And then there's his artwork there on the back. All right,
Moving on, we have Johans. Johans is our archer, because on his slot he can hold a crossbow instead of his armor. And then some of his gained experience skills are ranged specific too. So, but anyway, his basic special ability is transmutation. I believe that means he can exchange items in his backpack for a new item from the deck. He can do a +1 action for his yellow, just like all the others. His orange experience, he can get a +1 free ranged action, or a +1 to dice roll for a ranged attack. So that's interesting. Instead of a +1, instead of an extra dice, it adds to the dice roll. So that's pretty nice. So more likely to be accurate. Right here for his red actions, he can have a +1 free ranged action. He can add to his max range, or he could have a Reaper for a ranged attack. And then there's his full artwork on the back. Get that glare off the card. All right, and finally we have the elf of the group. We have Shelly. Well, Seely, that's what I'm going to call her. And she is slight and nimble, so she's going to be able to hold a curved dagger instead of armor on her body spot. And her free action is jump. And her yellow experience level action skill is +1 action, just like all the others. Her orange skill, she can choose from a +1 free melee action, or she can do a hit and run skill. And over here on the red, she can have a +1 free move action. Roll 6 +1 die combat. So if she's does combat and she rolls a 6, then she can roll another die, which means that's possibly more orcs that she could hit and kill. And then finally, her last red skill that she can choose from is Zombie Link. So that's Seely. There's her full body art. She is the elf of the group. Pretty cool. So those are the 6 heroes. I'll show you their miniatures here in a little bit. Let's go on to the draw decks. These are the small cards that come in the game. So here's the character card that we just looked at for size reference. Here's some of the cards from the zombie draw deck. This is a spawn deck, and looks like this is about 2.5 inches tall, and about 1.5 inches wide. So pretty small cards. But these cards will come in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 different varieties. And you're going to come with the grayback. These are going to be your starting weapons, starting equipment. You have the blueback. These are legendary items. You have the redback. And those are just common equipment. That's the common equipment deck. And then you have a yellow back. And I know the lighting of my camera, it doesn't show up very well, but that's the yellow back. And that's the zombie spawn deck. So I'm going to show you what all those are here one at a time. So first off, let's take a look at the starting weapons. So like I said, they're going to have a gray back. But they're also going to tell you, let's get closer up here. They're also going to tell you that right in here, that it is a starting equipment. All right. So in this case, we got a short sword. This is a piece of equipment that's going to go in your hand. It is a starting equipment, so you can use it at a blue level. All right, and this up here tells you at what experience level that you are allowed to use this item. An example, let's see, compared to, let's say, this lava burst. You can only use it once you reach the orange experience level, where a short sword, you can use it right off the bat at the blue experience level right here. All right, and this is a dual weapon, so this there's a special rule in this game to where if you have two dual weapons, you can get special bonuses when you attack. Short sword also allows you to open doors that you come across in the game, to bust them down, but you have to do a die roll to see if you're successful in opening the door. This one requires a die roll of 4, and it makes noise whenever you open the door because breaking down doors is pretty noisy business. But when you attack, it does not make any noise. So right here, this is when you're attacking. This is cross through. It does not make noise. Down here on the bottom shows you how you're going to use this piece of equipment in battle. So this first box here is the range. So it has a range of 0. So you have to be in the same square as the zombie that you're attacking in order to use this weapon. And then the second square here tells you how many die that you can roll in an attack. So the more die that you can roll means the more number of enemies that you can attack with that single action, if you're successful. Which brings us to the next box. This tells you what you have to roll in order to have a successful attack. So in this case, you have to roll a 4 or higher in order to successfully attack one of the zombies. And this here tells you the damage level that this weapon can do, which in this case is a damage level of 1. So that means it can only kill a basic orc walker or a goblin runner. If you want to attack a fatty or an abomination, or let's see, a necromancer. No, you can kill a necromancer with this weapon, but an orc fatty or an abomination, you're going to have a better weapon for that. Now, this short sword, there are 3 short swords available as starting equipment. So if you're playing with a 6-player game, 3 players are going to have the short sword at the beginning of the game. And there are 3 other pieces of equipment that could be a starting. This one here is a Norse sword. Actually, let's come back to that. Let's do a spiked bow. All right. So spiked bow, this is a ranged weapon, but it is also spiked, so it can be used as a melee weapon. Again, it is a blue level, so you can use it right off the bat. You have to hold it in your hand in order to use it. It uses arrows. And then here it tells you that there are 2 different options of how you can use the weapon. So this first one, you can use it as a melee at a 0 range. So you have to be in the same square as the person you're attacking. You can only roll 1 die with a 4+ required to have a successful hit and does 1 damage. Or you can use it as a ranged attack. So you can attack with up to 1 square away with 1 die. You need a 4+ in order to have a successful attack, and it does 1 damage as well. So, if you're doing melee, it's probably best to if you're in the same square, it's probably best to use melee because, if you're not successful, you could potentially, hit one of a friendly person if you have a failed attack. But I guess there's different reasons why you could want to use the bow as a ranged weapon in the same square. But it is also a silent weapon. And again, it says here that it is a starting equipment and uses arrows. Then we have Telekinetic Blast. This is one of the spells. This is again a starting spell, starting equipment denoted here. And this one, you spend an action. You can open a door within range and line of sight, or as an attack. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to that. Opens a door within range and line of sight. So you can use this as an action to open doors, just like the short sword could open doors. But this one, instead of having to roll to see if you're successful, you can you're automatically successful. It works every single time. But you could also use this as an attack. So it is also a ranged weapon. It has a range up to 1 square away. You use 1 die and need a 4+ to be successful, and does 1 damage. And it is also a dual weapon. So if you have this along with another dual weapon equipped, you get special bonuses. And then finally, the Norse sword. Again, blue level. A Norse sword can be used to open doors, but you have to roll to see if you're successful, and it makes noise opening the door. It is a silent weapon, though, when used for attacks. And it is a range of 0, so it's a melee weapon only, with a plus, with only 1 die, requiring a 4 or greater to be successful. But this one does 2 damage, so this one you could use to attack a fatty as well, and you could kill him. But you still can't attack an abomination with this weapon unless you had some sort of skill bonus. Now, another interesting thing about this is you also gain +2 die if a Norse shield is also equipped. So a Norse shield is not a starting equipment, but it's something that you could find. This is Norse shield. We'll look a little more into this later. But if you have both of these equipped, you will have gain 2 dice during an attack. So that's an interesting little thing. I'm not sure if it's in the other Zombicides, but by combining weapons and armor and certain things, there's certain combinations that you can do that give you a tactical advantage. So this is the last of the starting equipment. There's 6 cards there, because you have 6 heroes that you can play with. So if you have any expansions, you'll probably get more starting cards to play with, because you could potentially play with more than 6 players. Now let's take a look at the legendary weapons. These are the legendary equipment. Sorry, these are the ones with the blue backs. These are used. These are not included in the basic equipment deck, but there are certain quests that require you to drop legendary weapons in rooms that you search, and you could potentially find these during specific quests. So let's start with this one. We have a War Cleaver. It requires you to have an orange level of experience in order to wield and use this. It can open doors and requires no die roll. It's successful every time. It is a silent weapon, and it has a special ability that if you roll a 6 during an attack, you get to roll another die. So you could potentially increase the number of orcs that you kill. It is a melee only weapon, so you have to be in the same square to use it as the enemy. You can roll up to 4 die though. So if you have if you're successful on all 4 die, that means that you can kill 4 enemies. So that's pretty cool. And then this here, you need a 4+ to be successful, and then it also does 2 damage. So you can kill a fatty with this weapon, and you would need some bonuses in order to kill an abomination. Let's see. Next we have a bone sword. All right, and so again, this one. You can use this one at a little earlier stage. You can use it at a yellow experience level. Does not open doors, but it is a silent weapon. And this one has a special ability that if you also have the bone cookery equipped, then you gain +2 die roll when attacking. It is a melee only weapon. You have 2 dice to roll with. It has a little better accuracy than that War Cleaver, because you only need a 3 or greater to be successful, but it only has 1 damage. Now the bone cookery though, So here's another legendary weapon, or vault weapon. This one, if you have this equipped, you add +1 damage to another equipped melee weapon. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this one. So this, if you have both of these equipped, so this would get a 1 damage. With this, it would add a +1 damage, so it could do 2 damage. But you also gain 2 dice if you have this equipped with this particular weapon. So you could roll 4 die with a 3+ in order to be successful for 2 damage. So that is like an awesome combination there. But you don't have to have the bone sword in order to use this combined. You could put it with the war cleaver if you want. It wouldn't give you the extra dice, but it would add extra damage to this weapon. And so then with these two combined, you could kill an abomination which requires a 3 damage or greater to be successful. So that's the bone Kirkery. It requires a yellow level experience to wield. So, oh, and it looks like it also has a dual weapon bonus as well. So if you have another weapon, such as, let's see, maybe like if you had it with this short sword, you would gain additional die for that. That's pretty cool. So there's a lot of combinations that you can do. Let's see. So that's the bone Kukri. Let's look at the Dwarven Axe. Here is another melee weapon. Requires a yellow experience level to wield. It opens doors just like the War Cleaver does. It is a silent weapon. It is melee only. Allows you to roll 6 die. So you could do some serious killing with this thing. But it requires a great accuracy. So you need a 5 or greater to have a successful hit with the die. And it only does 1 damage. But in addition to, you need 5 or greater. But if you roll a 6, it increases the damage. So any die that you roll a 6 now does 2 damage instead of 1. So you could potentially, kill some fatties with this axe. That's pretty cool. All right, next we have the steel bow. This is the vault ranged weapon. It uses arrows. Requires a yellow experience level right there. Now here's some special things that you can do with it. The survivor can trace lines of sight through obstacles that don't block movement, like hedges and so hedges pretty much are the only thing, because I believe obstacles do block movement. So you can shoot through a hedge, which normally you wouldn't be able to shoot through a hedge because you can't see what's on the other side. This one you can. In addition, you can shoot up to 3 spaces away, so it really increases the range over the spiked bow. You can shoot 2 arrows at the same time on this bow. Pretty cool, like a elven bow. It requires a 3 or greater for accuracy, so a pretty accurate weapon. And it only does 1 damage though. But that's some pretty powerful other areas. I mean, you can go pretty far away from where you're at and hit an enemy, and you can hit up to 2 of them with a pretty low roll required. So even though it does just 1 damage, that's pretty good right there for pretty good balance. And then finally, for the vault weapons, we have a spell, and we have a combat spell. It's a lava burst, which requires a orange experience level. It is a dual wielding weapon, and one of its special abilities is if you roll a 6, the target zone is subject to dragon fire effect instead. Wow. Okay, so if you roll a 6, the zone that you're attacking has dragon fire, which means it kills anything in that zone. It doesn't matter the hit requirements are required to hit it. It kills everything. So you can really rack up some experience points with that. That is awesome. Now, but you got to roll 6 though, so that's potentially good. So let's see. It is a loud attack, so if you use this, it's going to make some noise. You can use it 0 to 2, which that's interesting because if you use it in your same space and you roll that 6, you're going to kill yourself because it's going to kill everything within that square. So you got to be careful with that. You can roll up to 3 dice. It requires a 3 or greater to have a successful hit and does a 2 damage. So you can kill some fatties with this thing. Pretty cool. All right, and so those are the vault weapons. 6 vault weapons. So let's look now at some of the just some of the basic equipment that you can find. So this is stuff that as you go into buildings and you do some searching, you're going to pull from this red deck, and this is the equipment that you can find. So we have a whole bunch of different stuff. Let's look at these spells. Most of these spells, I don't think there's any repeats in these spells. There may be 1 or 2 that are repeated, but for the most part, they are all different. Now there's 1 extra. Okay, so yeah, so here we have repulse. Let's start off. We're going to start off looking at all the enchantments. So we have repulse. It's an enchantment. So this is outside of combat. Once per turn, you can push all zombies from a target zone you can see to a zone adjacent to it that shares an open path and is 1 zone further from you. All right, so as long as you can see them, as long as you have line of sight, you can push all zombies from that zone to an adjacent zone. It is a allowed enchantment, and requires you can wield this right away. It only requires a blue level. Next up, we have healing, also enchantment. So you can use this outside of combat. It's a blue level enchantment, so you can use this from the get-go. Once per turn, the targeted survivor recovers 1 wound up to their starting total. Healing can be used to can't be used to resurrect a survivor. So if a survivor dies, you can't use this to bring them back to life, but you can bring them back from the brink if they're getting close to death. You have Trimmer, another enchantment. So all zombies requiring damage 1 to be eliminated. So these are walkers, runners, wolves if you're using the Black Plague pieces in the target zone are laid down. So they fall down and they spend their next activation getting up. So instead of moving or attacking, they all fall down. And it is a loud enchantment, so it makes noise and only requires a blue level to wield. Next we have Ghost Sight. So if you are holding Ghost Sight, the targeted survivor can trace lines of sight and attack through obstacles like closed doors, walls, and hedges during this game round. So it looks like you have to do an action to cast this enchantment, and then whoever you cast this on, whenever they do a ranged attack, they can, as one of their actions, they can shoot through walls and hedges and closed doors. Pretty much they can shoot through anything. So as long as they have a line of sight traced. So those doors and obstacles, they don't block line of sight, basically. We have Speed, another enchantment. So once per turn, select a survivor in a zone without zombies. It may immediately perform a free move action of up to 2 zones. And is a loud enchantment. Requires just the basics experience. So you can use this right from the beginning. So basically gives some people some extra movement. So, okay, so now those were all the enchantments. Let's look at some of the combat spells we have. So we have Telekinetic Blast. And I believe this is basically the same as the starting card that you could have. So Yeah, the only difference, yeah, I mean, so it's exactly the same. The only difference is that this is found. You can find this by searching. So you could have this, both of these equipped, and you see the dual symbol. It could give you some bonuses during combat, or you could give this to different people. So different people could be wielding telekinetic blast. You have Death Gale. Again, requires a blue experience level. It is a dual wielding spell, and it is a loud spell, and is ranged, so you can use it up to one space away. Roll 2 dice, but you need a 5 or greater to have a successful attack with it. But it gives you 2 damage, so you can kill some fatties with this thing. Looks like you have 2 of those Death Gales in a deck. And then finally we have a Lightning Bolt. And I believe there's also 2 of these in the deck as well. And you can do this one up to 2 spaces away. So it's even greater range with 2 dice. And you only require 4+ to be successful, but only does 1 damage. Is a blue level spell, so you can use this right off the bat, and is a dual wielding weapon. So those are all the spells in the equipment deck. So those are spells that you could find while searching buildings and such. Other things that you could find are some ranged weapons. So first off, we have let's look at this. So we have a longbow, and that is gives you a little more range than, say, you do with a spiked bow. So you can tack up to 3 spaces away, but you cannot use it as a melee weapon because there's no spikes on it, of course. It is you only get 1 die roll for it, but it is pretty accurate. So you only need a 3 or greater to be successful, and does 1 damage. So you can only kill walkers and runners with this thing, and a necromancer. You can also find a spiked bow, same as a starting weapon. So there's some of those in there. But beyond bows, you also have crossbows. Now these require bolts instead of arrows. Only requires blue level. It is a silent weapon, same as the regular bows. You can shoot up to 2 spaces away, and you can shoot 2 bolts. So it's kind of like a quick reloading weapon, I guess. You can shoot 2 die, requires a 4 or greater, and a bolt, man, really packs the punch. So it can do up to 2 damage to kill some fatties. You have a repeating crossbow. This one, you can have the dual weapon bonus. It is silent. It is not as far as regular crossbow, but you can use it in the same zone that you're standing in. So you don't have to be 1 square removed. It will give you 3 dice to roll, but you require greater accuracy because a repeating crossbow is not as accurate. You need a 5 or greater to have a successful hit, and it only does 1 damage. And finally, you have a hand crossbow, which also uses bolts. So some things with this. So it kind of has the best of both worlds. It is a short-ranged crossbow, 1 to 2. You get 2 die. It requires a 3 or greater in order to have a successful hit, and only does 1 damage. One thing about this, though, is if you shoot it, you need to use an additional action to reload it. Or you could, if you get to the end of a phase, you can reload it for free. But so you could shoot it, reload, shoot again, and it's still empty. So if you have like another survivor in your square and they decide to trade with you, it's unloaded. So they got to spend an action to reload it again. So that's kind of a disadvantage with this one. It's nice because it has low required rolling, and you can get up to 2 people, but you got to reload it, and so you got to waste an action in order to reload it. So that's kind of give and take with that one. And then finally we have plenty of arrow and plenty of bolts. Basically this means that you can, if you have this equipped in your backpack, you can re-roll your ranged attacks. If you have, in this case, if you have a bow, anything that requires arrows, you can re-roll the dice to see if you can get anything better, but you have to take the new results. And the same thing with bolts. This is basically all the crossbows, anything that uses bolts. You can re-roll the dice if you're not happy with the results. Some of the melee weapons now we have, same as a starting deck. Oh, and I think there's one more. No, okay, we got that. Okay, so we have short swords, same as a starting weapon. And next up we have a dwarven hammer. All right, you can use this to open doors. You have to roll to see if you're successful, but it's a silent weapon when attacking. It is a melee only, but you can roll 2 dice and it does 2 damage. So you can kill some fatties with this thing, and requires a 4 or greater to be successful. Next up we have a scimitar. You can also open doors with this thing. Requires a dice roll. Silent for the attacks though. And is a melee only, 2 dice for rolling. And needs a 4 or better, but it only does 1 damage. So pretty similar to the dwarven hammer, except for the damage is less. So you can only kill walkers, runners, and necromancers with this thing. The falchion. All right, this one, again, you can open doors. It's melee weapon only, but you can roll 3 dice with this. It still requires a 4 or greater, and only does 1 damage. But 3 dice, you can kill up to 3 walkers or orcs with this thing in one action. You have a curved dagger. Melee, 1 dice, 4 required for a successful hit with only 1 damage. It is a silent, but it is also a dual wielding weapon. So if you have another weapon with this symbol, you get some bonus dice. And then in addition to that, you can add 1 die to another equipped melee weapon. So that means that you can potentially hit some more walkers. Next up, you have a great axe. All right, this one can do a lot of damage. This automatically opens the door. You do not have to roll for it. Is melee only, so it has to be in the same square. You can roll up to 4 dice, so you can kill up to 4 zombies with this thing. It does a 5+ damage. It does a 2 damage, so you can kill some fatties, but you need to be accurate. You need to roll a 5 or a 6 in order to have a successful hit. So kind of give and take. You can kill a lot, but you also need to have good rolls. Compare that to a regular axe. You can roll 1 dice, but you only need a 4 to have a successful hit, and only does 1 damage. And you can open doors without a roll required. And is a dual wielding weapon, so you add that to the curved dagger, and you can have some bonus die there. And then, of course, we have the Norse sword, same as the starting weapon. And again, I'm going to show you that again. I mentioned that you can combine that with a Norse shield. So this is a piece of armor here. Get that out of the glare. I got bad lighting tonight. All right, so a Norse shield. This gives you an armor roll requiring a 4+ roll to defend against any damage. And then you can also, but as a Norse shield, you can add 1 die to another equipped melee weapon. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a Norse sword. It can be any melee weapon. But in this particular case, if you have the Norse sword and the Norse shield, so you gain 1 die here because it is a melee weapon, but then you also gain 2 dice here for this special, so you're now rolling 4 dice with this combination. So 4 dice with a 2 damage with a 4+. That is a awesome combination if you manage to get both of these two with the same hero. So that's pretty cool there. How they kind of implemented that into the game of combining equipment for a little extra bonus. Gives a little extra level to think about. All right, so we have some plate armor here. You need a 3+ in order to have a successful defense roll to negate damage. Again, that symbol there indicates you got to wear it on your body in order to be able to use it, and you can use it right off the bat. You have a regular shield, so you can choose one. You can do a armor roll of 4+. Or you can re-roll once armor rolls made with another equipped armor. So the new result takes the place of the previous one. So you hold this in your hand. If you have this by yourself, you can do a armor roll of 4+. But let's say you're wearing this on your body, and you're also carrying a shield in one of your hands. So you do an armor roll of 3+. And you don't have a good roll. Well, you can re-roll because you're wearing the shield and still only need a 3 or greater to be successful. So that's kind of a nifty little bonus that you can choose from with that shield. And finally, we have chainmail armor. This is similar to the shield. It requires a 4+ to have a successful defense. So not as good as plate armor, but still it's something. So that's the armor. Next up, we have some of the food, because you could find food while you're exploring houses and stuff. We have salted meat, we have apples, and we also have clean water. So all these are pretty much the same. You can, if you have this, you can discard this card to gain an experience point. And then finally, we got 3 cards left here. That's our equipment. Same as always, if you're searching a house, maybe you didn't see an orc that was kind of hiding in the corner, so you could draw a orc walker card, and you had to place another walker in the zone that you just searched. So there's a bunch of these in the deck. And then we have Dragon Bile and torches. All right, so let's start with the torch here. If you're holding this and you're searching a room, you can draw 2 cards while searching instead of just 1. So that's a pretty good bonus there. You can draw 2 cards while searching instead of just 1, so you can really gain some good items there. And then the Dragon Bile, if you have this Dragon Bile, you can spend an action and discard Dragon Bile from your hand. Put a Dragon Bile token within range of 0 to 1 as long as you have line of sight. So Dragon Bile is this token right here. So you put that on the board. Now, you have that on the board. It's sitting there. Basically, what that is like a booby trap. Because, okay, now, if you're 1 square away, and you have the torch in your hands, you can spend an action and discard the torch from your hand and select a Dragon Bile token within range of 0 to 1 and line of sight. And you resolve Dragonfire, which basically means everything within that zone dies. It doesn't matter if it's an abomination, or if it's another hero. Everything within that square dies, and you get all the experience required for that. You got to be careful though, because if you're within that square too, you could kill yourself, or like I said, you could also kill a friend. So you got to be careful with it. But this is a great combination to have, set up like booby traps. If all the orcs and goblins and such are kind of channeling down a alleyway, you can drop the bile and wait for them to come and boom, kill them all in 1 shot. And whoever drops the torch is going to get the experience for that. So that's pretty cool there. And then finally, this is not an equipment card, but it is one of the tiny cards. This is the catapult card. This basically is just going to be on the table to remind everybody how to use the catapult, the trebuchet, and just gives all that there. So it's just basically a quick summary card of how you can use it. So it's not in a draw deck, it's just something on the table. All right, so we saw some of you saw all the character cards, all the hero cards, and we also saw some equipment cards. Let's look to see how that all works together. This here is the player board. I wanted to give you a close look at that compared to what I showed you before. So, you have the board here, and this is where your hero card is going to go, right there. And then as you gain equipment, of course, you're going to start off with some sort of starting equipment. Let's see, this is, she is, she's going to be a melee person, so we're going to give her a short sword. And so we're going to put that in her hand there. As she gains equipment, she could have, let's see, she could find a piece of armor. She put her armor there in the body spot. Or, as her special, one of her special abilities is, instead of armor, she could also wear a curved dagger, and she would gain that bonus, or use it as an attack. But she could wear armor. And she could, have something else in her hand, say like a dragon bile, or or a torch instead of the dragon bile. And then she could have other things that are in her pouch over here. Say she's carrying another weapon in case she loses something there, or maybe she has a spell, in her pack. And so she has her backpack, she has, her body spot that she can wear armor or a curved dagger. She has two hands for which she can hold stuff with. And then, of course, you would take, these little pegs, and you would use them to indicate, which level of experience she's at. So right here, she's at the blue level, she has that jump ability, but as she gains experience by killing zombies and stuff, she's going to move up, to the yellow level, further up to the orange. She's going to be able to, she'll have both of these, and then she'll get to choose, one of these special abilities. So let's say she wants to choose hit and run. All right, well then she gets further up here to the red, and then she gets to choose one of these. So let's say she wants to choose that, roll 6. All right, and then she also has her health tracker up here. So this is the number of hit points she has going against her. When she gets up to 3, she's dead. So that's how the player boards work with the players. All right, so that's all the equipment cards. Now let's look at the zombie deck. This is the zombie spawn deck. This is the orange backing. The yellow backing. I don't know my colors. I think I need to go back to preschool with my son. All right, so most of the deck are going to be stuff like this. Oops. It's assemble the Horde cards, and these are just various combinations of zombies that you're going to put out on the spawn points. So based upon your the highest level of experience of your heroes. So if somebody's up to somebody could be up here to the orange, and everybody else here down at the blue, you're still going to do this level. This one here is the same, but if you notice, like these two here, so they just have different levels based upon just various combinations. So if you're on the blue level, this, and you draw this card, you're going to get 1 orc fatty, as opposed to this one, 2 goblin runners. It says orc, but it should be goblin. Now, something different about this compared to Black Plague is you have, if you notice, it says assemble the horde. So you're going to put, the appropriate number of zombies on the spawn point, but over here you're also going to add one of that same type of zombie to a horde, which is off the board. Okay, so you're assembling this large horde off to the side. And it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's only just the basic walker, so as you can see here, the Orc Abomination, it doesn't have a +1. So if you draw the Orc Abomination, you don't add anything to the horde. But all these basic ones, the Orc Walker, the Orc Fatty, the Orc Runners, you're going to add to the horde. And you're going to keep on adding to the horde until in one of your spawn points you have a bunch of these. Where'd they go? Let's see. Enter the horde cards. Okay, there's a bunch of these that are in the deck. They'll be spread throughout. And so you keep adding to that to the horde until you draw this card. And so everything that's in that horde that's been piling up is going to get piled onto the board in that spawn zone. So it could be, if you draw it early, it could only be, one walker. Or it could be 15 walkers over there in the horde. So it could be, it could be good, or it could be just a total nightmare. So there's a bunch of these here in the deck. Let's see. And then we also have extra activation cards. So you could draw one of these instead of spawning, which basically gives all the orcs that are everything that's on the board already an extra activation. And it'll be just different combinations of that. Let's see, we have a bunch of enter the hordes. So it could be, based upon the experience level, the highest experience level of the of your team. It could be Orc Walker, it could be fatties. Let's see. I don't know if there's others in there. I'm not going to flip through the whole thing. So, it gives everything that's already on the board an extra activation. And then finally, you also have the Orc Necromancer. So you draw one of these, you're going to add an additional spawn point, a Necromancer spawn point to the board. And then this Necromancer is not going to, he's not exactly a zombie. He's the one that created the zombies in their clan, their race. And so he's sentient. He knows what he's doing. So he's trying to get off the board. He's trying to escape. And if he is successful in doing that, then his Necromancer spawn point becomes a regular spawn point that's on the board to stay. Now, there's only one Necromancer in the base box. So if you draw another one of these cards and the Necromancer is already on the table, then you don't add a Necromancer to the table. He just gets an extra activation. Now, with some of the expansions you get, you could have additional Necromancers, and you could play with all the extra Necromancers. So there's, it could make it interesting. You could have multiple Necromancers on the board if you have an expansion set. Now, also being that you only have the one Necromancer in the base box, that means that you can't add any to the horde. So instead of adding a Necromancer, you're going to add one of each of the basics. So you're going to add one walker, one fatty, and one runner. So, and this guy's just kind of bad news all around for you. So that's the Orc Necromancer. And that is all of the spawn cards. And it's a pretty big deck. I mean, you got 54 cards. So let's see. And you got this basically this nice thick deck here. 54 cards. And you may have noticed, though, you say, there's only 54. Are you sure? Because, I just saw here on this card it says 220. Are you sure there's not 220 of these spawn cards? Well, the reason for that is it actually starts, the first card in this deck is 167. And the reason is if you have the previous versions of this game, so if you have Zombicide Black Plague, that is going to start at 1 and go up to, it's probably up to 54. And then if you have some of the expansions, so Wolfsburg, it's going to add additional spawn cards. And so then we have this, and then we also have the expansions for Green Horde. And so this doesn't start at 1. This continues the numbering system of the other games in this series. So so that you can combine these and play together. So there's only 54 cards, even though these numbers are higher, the identifying number. And so that is all of the draw cards in the game. All right. Let's take a look at what I think everybody's most interested at seeing here with this game is the minis. So we're going to start off here. We're going to take a look at these Orc Walkers. The Orc Walkers, we have five different poses that you can have on the board, just to give a little variety to the game. They all have the same level of damage, and the same attack, same speed, and all that. They're just they're all just posed differently to give you just a little extra variation. That's cool, man. I really wish that my camera was better than what it is, because these things look absolutely amazing, and I'm afraid it's just not conveying that in this picture here. See if we can zoom in on those faces. That is pretty hardcore, man. My goodness. Walk onto the battlefield and see some of these things coming at you, man. I'd be asking for my brown pants, I'll tell you that much. Intense. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. So those are the Orc Walkers. And let's see. Let's take a look. These stand at about, about a little over an inch high. All right, next up we have the Goblin Runners. Their cousins, the Goblins, have joined the Orcs in their quest for world domination and brain buffets. These guys are special on the boards. They get 2 actions instead of 1, so they could move very quickly across the board, or they could move and attack in the same zombie phase. But there are 2 poses here, again, to give a little variety. Not as many runners as there are Orc Walkers. Let's see if we can get a zoom in there on their face. Show the intense battle cry that they're screaming out. Look at that. Gives you the heebie-jeebies, maybe, huh? All right. And these fellas stand at about, looks like, about 0.8 inches. This is a engineering ruler, so that's just what I had available at the time. So 0.8 inches. All right, next up we have the Orc Fatties. take a look at these guys, man. These guys are ready to brawl. Call up the NFL. I think they found their new lineman. I tell you what, these guys are tough. These guys require 2 hit points, a 2 damage weapon to kill. This guy's got a bunch of plate armor. Plate armor there on him. Pretty cool. But 2 different poses for these guys. This guy's got a little more on his shoulder pads there. This one I'm seeing, a little bit. You can kind of, I don't know if this picks up, but you can kind of see the mold lines here. So these are pretty good quality. They do have their flaws. May have to do a little sanding or something if I ever get around to painting these guys. Let's zoom in on those faces. See what we got here. Look at that. Grrr. These guys crack open your head and suck out your brains in a heartbeat. And finally, in the way of the orc army, we have the necromancer right there, an old guy, followed by the abomination. Oh my lord, I would hate to see this guy in a dark alley. Oh my word, look at that guy. Jeez Louise. Guy is intense. Let's see. So we got the necromancer here, measuring in at about 1 inch tall. So same as his walker brethren. Just not as buff. He looks pretty fit, but just not quite as buff. And this guy, oh man, his hand is reaching up a little bit over 2 inches. But his head about 1.5 inches there. Pretty tall guy, man. And compare him next to one of the regular walkers, and then of course there's a runner, and a fatty. You kind of get a size comparison of these guys. So obviously, you got the little tiny runners, but they're nimble. The basic unit men, the walkers. Got your fatties. These guys are like the tanks, and this is the nuke right here. Big old abomination. My goodness. And of course, here's the he's out of the way. But there's there's a little spinster that's behind all this problem. Casting spells that better be left alone. All right. So first up, we have a seam. Here's his mini, guys. As you can see, man, looks like a wizened, weather hardened man, ready for battle. Looks like he knows how to handle himself, handle a weapon. You can kind of see in here, again, not exactly the perfect mold, but still pretty good, but you can kind of see the mold lines in there. So maybe a little bit of sanding needed. It may not be that bad, you know, once we get painting, because again, these guys are, you know, these are minis, so you may not be able to see it. I'm just zoomed in a lot here. These are only about an inch tall. But take a look at that guy. Next up we have Rolf. And there he is. My gosh. Look at the intensity on that face. Orc heads are gonna roll with this guy. I tell you what. Awesome detail though. I mean, you see the little ear peeking out there from the hair. I tell you, I mean, it looks big on the camera here. I mean, these guys are tiny. I mean, they're miniatures, you know. All that, you know, all the equipment there on his belt. And so, you know, I've mentioned a couple times, you know, you see the mold lines and everything, but you know, these guys, I will have to say, these guys are small, and the amount of detail that they pack in to these little figures is absolutely astounding. So that there is Rolf. Next up, we have let's look at Selly. All right, Selly the elf. There she is. All right, holding her kukri, I think that's how you say it. Probably butchering it. Graceful yet deadly. Absolutely outstanding. Absolutely beautiful. You see her little orc ears pointing out there. Or not orc, elven ears pointing out there. I love the focus on her face. Just the seriousness. She ain't here to joke around. Alright. Next up we have, let's look at Baron. Alright, the dwarf. So we had the elf. Let's check out the dwarf. Look at that. Looks like a chieftain or something like that with his wolf cloak. Probably spent days out in the wilderness, hunted this wolf down that was terrorizing his people, maybe their livestock. Wouldn't be surprised if this guy killed that wolf with his bare hands, you know, or maybe nothing but a knife, just wrestled this thing to the ground, removed its pelt from its body and just made a cloak out of it. Look at that guy. Absolutely awesome. Look at that face, man. He is ready for battle. I tell you what. Come at me, bro. That's what he's saying. Very cool. All right. Next we have, let's look at Megan. All right, so she's your caster. She's going to be has that. Some of her special abilities are focused around spells and such. So she has her sword, Looks like she also has like a staff that has some clubs tied to it. Notice here she also has her little satchel for carrying her spells, ready at any moment. Got some daggers and just some equipment for spell casting. This ain't no simple lady you're gonna pick up in a tavern, I tell you what. You treat her like some little fragile thing, she's gonna tell you what for. Put you to shame. Bam! I like that, man. Nice strong woman hero in this game. Alright, finally we have Johans. So Johans is going to be your ranged attacker with crossbow and bows and such. Looks very noble-like, looks like. Don't let that finely groomed beard and coiffed hair fool you, man. He knows how to handle himself out in the battlefield. Look at that cloak, though, man. Billowing cloak. Looks like he would definitely be a hero. Imagine you're in one of these villages being attacked by zombie orcs, and this man kicks down the door. You see his silhouette in the sunlit door, that cloak billowing. You know you're going to be safe. That's Johans. Alright, and finally, we have not only heroes, but heroes have a new weapon to employ out on the field. With the Green Horde, they have a trebuchet. This catapult, trebuchet to be more specific, can be used multiple different ways. You can launch it and try to attack a whole bunch of zombies at once with some scatter shot, or you can do everything up to a boulder to kill an abomination. Absolutely cool. If you look here, notice this rope. Now I've seen some models, and so this rope comes out. Kind of looks like it's been launched. I've seen some models where this turns up. It doesn't look like mine does. I don't know if it's not supposed to, or if mine is supposed to and it just doesn't do it. But at least that rope is kind of sitting free. It kind of gives like a little more movement. But this thing's pretty cool. You just look at the wood there, the wood grain, and just it's been beaten up. Got some nicks in it. The wheels are all nicked up from rolling over rough terrain and everything. It's a lot of detail in this thing, man. It's pretty cool. But sitting next to one of the adventurers there, it's a good size. So that's a trebuchet. And with that's all the miniatures. Now there's a whole bunch of more, other, miniatures for the zombie horde, but they're just repeats of what I've already shown you.
And that's what's inside a box of Zombicide Green Horde. As you can see, this box is chock full of stuff. Lots of little miniatures, a lot of game components. There's a ton of quests in the rule book, so this is going to get a lot of gameplay on my table. I'm really excited about it. I hope you are too. If you have any questions about this game, please leave them down in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them as quick as I can. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you like what I'm doing here on this channel, please consider subscribing. It'll let you know anytime I put out a new video, whether it be unboxings, reviews, playthroughs, anything about tabletop games. That's what we do here. This is what we love to play. We love to play games. So thank you all for joining me today, and until next time, game on, my friends.